afternoon. And Borky has another list that has made him angry. This one comes from On3 Sports.
Oh, it's so bad.
It is a ranking, Borky, of the quarterback rooms.
And in fairness to the author, it is the quarterback rooms, not just the starting quarterback of each team. That does change things a little bit, however.
Number one on the list is the University of Southern California. Lincoln Riley has developed his reputation of being the best developer of quarterbacks in college football. Now, he's had elite guys at that position. Caleb Williams returns. I don't think you'll find anybody that argues he's the best quarterback in the country, at least going into the season. Yeah. And Miller Moss, a former five-star blue-chip recruit, is a backup. And then they've got five-star freshman Malachi Nelson on the team as well. That's a good quarterback room, but the only experience in the room is with the starter in Caleb Williams.
But I'm cool with that being number one, reigning Heisman Trophy winner, 5 stars behind him. I get it. Cool there.
Number two on the list is LSU. Not sure that there's a ton of argument here either. Jaden Daniels, who performed quite well a year ago. Garrett Nussmeier, when called into duty in the SEC championship game, was really, really good.
And Daniels had experience before LSU as well. It's not like he's a one-off starter there.
Number three on the list, perhaps, raises some eyebrows.
This is gripe number one.
It's Texas. So Quinn Ewers, with Malik Murphy as his backup, who had a really good spring game, really kind of lost the competition for quarterback a year ago. He lost it to Quinn Ewers, but then was really hampered by an injury that set him back. And, of course, there is the answer or the addition of Arch Manning, who did not have a spring game, but it was a spring game when he was supposed to still be a senior in high school.
Yes.
But what is your issue with Texas being number three on this list?
Quinn Ewers was kind of stinky last year. I know he got hurt, but he wasn't particularly good. And Arch Manning has never taken a college snap before. And you're telling me that room is that's the third best quarterback room to our knowledge in the sport. That's what you're telling me. Again, Quinn Ewers in his 1 year, kind of stinky, and guys you've never seen play before, is the third best quarterback room in the entire sport.
Okay.
No shot. The one right behind it, because you know Drake May's not stinky. You know he's a high-level player. Regardless of what's behind him. You don't know what's behind Drake May just as much as you don't know what's behind Quinn Ewers. Neither group has shown...
Are you telling me that Connor Harrell and Tad Hudson are not household names?
No.
Those are Drake May's potential backups.
But they have the same experience as Arch Manning, which is none. Arch Manning, I know 5-star, I know the name, all that stuff. But how many 5 stars with a ton of pedigree and a ton of upside have flamed out at the quarterback position? Spoiler, it's more than the ones that have succeeded.
Number 4 on the list, you mentioned North Carolina. Number 5 is Oklahoma, and this is an odd one to me as well. So UCF transferred Dylan Gabriel. He threw for 3,100 yards and 25 touchdowns. There's a ton of experience for Dylan Gabriel across 2 schools.
Yeah.
And he should put up really good numbers this year for Oklahoma.
And he ended up being pretty good last year on a bad team. They couldn't stop anybody, Oklahoma. Horrible defensively. But he has like 1,400 Division I pass attempts, something like that.
Jackson Arnold is his backup, a former 5-star that maybe, they write in this story, might be the most game-ready of any of the quarterbacks in this freshman class. And then they say Georgia, Oregon, Tennessee, UCLA, Ole Miss are the next 5.
Georgia. That's the one that stood out to me. Circle, underline. Texas is overrated, but Texas is perpetually overrated with everything that they do always. Everything that Texas is involved in, they are overrated in. That brand is so strong that it blinds people. But Georgia at 6, no starts in the entire room. Not one. I know it's Georgia, and they'll probably win a bunch of games because you win a bunch of games at Georgia with that roster. But take Ole Miss out of this, because I know what people on Twitter say. Take Ole Miss out of this. How do you know that Georgia's quarterback room is better than that of Arkansas? How do you know it's better than that of Mississippi State, who has 2 guys on roster that have started games in the SEC? I know Mike Wright lost his job, but that's the backup. The backup can play in SEC games, has beaten Florida, by the way, behind Will Rogers, who has thrown 1 billion passes in the SEC. You're telling me that Georgia's room, that has never taken a meaningful snap collectively, ever in college football, is better than that of Arkansas, than that of, yes, Ole Miss, than that of Mississippi State? Please explain to me how that is the case.
It's a really talented room. We don't know, though, right? I mean, it's unproven.
We don't know.
Those guys, Carson Beck, Brock Vandegrift, Gunnar Stockton, all super highly rated, but they got to prove it on the field. By the way, for those of you asking what happened to Hey Dad, he had to go be a dad. He had it was either a band concert or a choir concert for his daughter, and he was sneaking out a little bit early to do that. So it's all good. Let's bring up Ole Miss just for a second. If the point of this exercise, as the writers at On3 lay it out, is the quality of the overall room, and clearly On3 is leaning on recruiting rankings, so they talk a lot about former 5-stars and former blue chips, then how do you have Ole Miss 10th on this list behind, for example, UCLA, who has former Kent State Carter Colin Schlee, former Cal starter Ethan Garbers, and a 5-star freshman in Dante Moore, in comparison to Ole Miss, who has a returning starter at 2 Power 5 schools, including Ole Miss, the second leading passer in the history of Oklahoma State, and a former 5-star that is unproven in the same room.
Yes.
If you are ranking the quarterback rooms, Ole Miss being at number 10 makes 0 sense. If you want to tell me they're not number 1 because Caleb Williams is so good and Lincoln Riley is so good at developing guys that he just elevates that room beyond what anybody can catch up to, okay. If you want to try to convince me that LSU's quarterback room is better, I'll listen. I'm not 100% sure that I agree with that, but I'll listen. But to have Ole Miss at 10 behind North Carolina and Oklahoma and Georgia with 3 guys that have never really played, and Tennessee who's replacing a starter.
There are 6 seasons of starts in the Ole Miss quarterback room. 6.
We'll wrap it up with you